Hey Max, it was great watching you play chess yesterday. Today, as you challenged, I want to play a little chess myself. So let's go on chess.com and begin. Okay, so I have the white pieces. I'm going to start with e4. That's a classic king's pawn opening. He plays e6, so he's playing the French defense. Now, usually I'd play d4, but this time I'm going to go a little more conservative, more of a closed position game. I'm going to play d3. This is the king's Indian attack. Okay, he plays d5. That is a more aggressive move, claiming space in the center and attacking specifically my pawn on e4. So I'm going to move my knight out to d2 so that if he takes my e-pawn, I can take it with the knight. He pushes c5, claiming even more space in the center. But since there's no immediate threat there, I'm just going to develop a piece. He plays knight c6, developing his piece and putting more pressure on the d4 square. I cannot push my d-pawn, which I want to do because it has two defenders. So I'm going to push my c-pawn to c3, giving space to move d5 later, and he plays knight f6. But I can just push my e-pawn, push his knight out of the way, claim more space in the center. Yeah, so now he has to move his knight. And he runs away to d7. And now I can just lock up the position, push d4. He'll probably take, yeah, he takes. We trade. And he moves his queen out. Okay, so this is the thing that I was worried about. He's got the black square paths for his queen and his bishop, both of which can put pressure on my king. Right now, his queen is attacking two places, the d4 pawn and the b2 pawn. So I'm going to move my knight to b3, which blocks the b2 pawn and protects the d4 pawn. Oh, yikes. Okay, that was a mistake on my part. My knight will have to leave, and then he'll be able to take the d pawn. Yeah, so I'm gonna protect the d pawn because that's my priority. He's gonna kick my knight away. Yeah, but I want my knight to end up on d3, so I'm not gonna bring it to d2. I'm gonna keep my queen protecting the d pawn, and I'm gonna move my knight down to c1. Okay, yeah, so his queen took b2, so I'll move knight d3, attacking the queen and protecting the rook with my queen. His queen is going to have to go back. He brings it back to b6. So now I have to develop my kingside bishop, and there's only one square to do that, so I'll bring that to e2, and hopefully I'll be able to castle. He brings his bishop out to b4, putting me in check. Well, I can just take the bishop. He'll take back with the knight or the queen, takes back with the queen with check. And if I block with my bishop, it weakens my d4 pawn. I think I'm going to give up my ability to castle. I'm just going to move my king to f1. I'm going to get my rook on the c file as soon as possible. That's a nice open file for my rook. All right, so he pushes pawn to b6. I guess he's planning on developing his bishop to b7, but there's no immediate threat. So I can put my rook on that c file like I want to. And now I don't understand that move. I'm gonna move my bishop back to d2, putting pressure on the queen. An x-ray attack. He moves his queen back to e7. He should have moved it to a3. Now his a pawn is hanging. Can I take that? Ooh, there's a chance there'll be a revealed discovered attack with the rook, but I'm gonna go for it. I took the pawn. And he moved his queen out of the way. Yeah, so he's looking to castle kingside. And he was worried about a move like bishop b4, which would have skewered the queen to the rook. So he has to move the queen down to castle. But I am not going to let him castle. I'm moving bishop to b4 anyway, blocking his castle, right? Because you can't castle through check. And he moves his bishop to a6 because he wants to get my king out in the open. But I can just take him. And my king doesn't go out in the open. Well, I attack the rook. He needs to respond to that. Okay, he moves it back to a7. I love where my queen is. I love where my bishop is. My rook is on the open file. So I just have to get my knight on f3 into the game. So I'm gonna bring it to d2. He pushes f6, putting pressure on my e-pawn. He wants to take the e-pawn, clearing away the f file, so he can get his rook onto the open f file pointed straight at my king. Yeah, if I take with my e-pawn, then it doesn't open the file. He takes back, and you get those two pawns on the f. He can't take with the knight because the knight is pinned, so I guess he'll take with the pawn. He's now trying to bring the rook over onto f8 so he can double up the attack on my f2 pawn for checkmate. but he's not going to have time to do that. If I move my rook to c8, check, he either has to block with the queen and trade a queen for a rook, or he has to move the king out of the way and lose the rook entirely. So I'll do rook c8 check, and he resigns. Wow. Well, considering that this was a grandmaster rated 2,761, I think he played very, very well. I just played better. I really thought he had me for a little bit, but I play a lot of chess. Thanks for watching, Max and the real fans. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.
Real Facts, Season 3.